What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledParents.
Go on, Timmy. It's perfectly okay to nearly break a violin that you didn't even ask to touch. Yikes. For context, we just finished our first high school orchestra concert of the year, and there's always a reception after that, with cakes and cookies to celebrate the start of concert season. Due to this, lots of the younger siblings come to the concert so that they can have cake after it. It seems perfectly normal until you realize that one of the orchestras unpacks in the room with reception. Tiny, sugar-fueled children in a room with a few unsupervised orchestra instruments scattered around. Now, usually, the children behave themselves because their parents keep them in check and make sure they don't touch the violins, violas, cellos, and basses that are on the edges of the room. Because most parents understand that musical instruments are very expensive and should only be used by the player of said instrument. However, not this parent. It started when I was hanging out with my friends at another end of the room when we heard something fall, and heard a kid say, "Aw man, the bow fell!" Naturally, a few of the orchestra members checked on this and saw a small child, who was maybe 8, struggling to hold a full-sized violin. A very familiar-looking violin, in fact. I looked over at my case and saw that this child straight up took my violin out of the case and was messing around with it like no big deal. Due to the nature of orchestra kids, there were already a few kids telling him to put the violin away and leave it alone. The kid didn't stop, and I showed up to tell him that that violin was mine, and for him to please hand it over to me. This is when his dad showed up.
"Are you telling my son to put away that viola? He's pursuing his musical interests. Let him be a kid. Don't you need more members anyway?"
"I'm really sorry, sir, but that's my violin. I really care for it, and my parents say that if I break it, I'll have to pay out of pocket to get it repaired. So I really don't want your son to break it. Can you tell him to give it back?"
"No, since that's your violin and he chose it, you should teach it to him. I won't be paying you since he chose your violin out of all the ones in here. You should be honored. Besides, you probably don't understand the value of money anyways."
"I'm not qualified to teach music lessons. Even then, that violin is too big for him. If he wants to play violin, you should start him off with a quarter or a half violin." "Hey dude, look what I can do!" The kid proceeds to play a string and then let go of the fingerboard for a second, having him almost drop the instrument. "Kid, I appreciate you trying to be creative, but please don't do that. You can have the violin fall and I'll have to pay for it. Do you know how much a violin costs? The bow alone costs $500.
"No, it doesn't. The whole set of the case, violin, and bow costs $200 max. How about this? He has your violin now, and I'll give you $75 to get a new one."
Are you insane? No! I've had that violin since 6th grade. That specific violin holds lots of moral value to me. I'm sick of reasoning with you. I'm gonna take the violin now. "Okay, here's the violin." The kid holds out the violin with a suspicious grin on his face. I reached out my arm to take it back, and the kid just freaking drops it in front of my face. I grabbed it just before it fell to the ground. "Are you out of your mind? What gives you the right as a parent to allow your child to go around haphazardly handling fragile objects that you don't even own or know how to handle? What is wrong with you?" Let's just hope your crotch goblin didn't mess with the strings. I checked the strings, and sure enough, the kid had messed with a lot of the fine tuners. I tried to retune it, and the E string snaps.
"Ha! Your poor violin broke. Now pay you $500 to get it fixed. Have fun. Bye."
And he starts to leave. Breaking a string is extremely different than dropping it and shattering the wood like your child was about to. So, okay, boomer. And he just left. No comments or anything. Luckily for me, apart from the E string snapping and the other strings being a bit out of tune, nothing bad happened. I actually am mildly hoping that the guy and his kid are there at the band concert on Sunday, because it would be absolutely hilarious to see a bunch of band kids chaotically attacking this guy for even touching their instruments rather than just trying to talk the kid out of it. Okay guys, first of all, this "okay boomer" meme is getting out of control. Y'all don't realize that any adult isn't just a boomer. No, boomers are like in their 50s to 70s, I'm pretty sure. For those who don't know, boomer comes from the term baby boomer, which is a term given to people who were born in the era after World War II when the soldiers came home and they just started making babies like crazy. So there was a baby boom. That's why they're called baby boomers. Anyways, they're a lot older than your standard parents. Your grandparents are more likely to be boomers than, your parents. Depending on your age, of course. Okay, anyways, $500 for the bow? Can someone explain the pricing to me, please? This story's called, Yes, I Can Go Into Soft Play with My Disabled Sister. No, that does not mean your able-bodied kids can too. So, some backstory. My younger sister has cerebral palsy. It doesn't affect her brain in the slightest, but it does make it hard for her to speak and confine her to a wheelchair unless she's being carried by someone. Because cerebral palsy is a neuromuscular condition, it means she has to be carried by someone strong enough to cope with her erratic and involuntary movements. Hence why a member of staff or her friend couldn't go in with her instead of me. Because of all these years of carrying her, I am pretty muscly. I was also a naturally curvy 14-year-old girl at the time. Important later. Here's the cast. Entitled Parent? Entitled Kid 1? Entitled Kid 2? Joy? Amy? Grandparents? Server Lady? And me. So I believe this incident occurred about a year and a half ago when my sister was 9. We were at a local soft play center with my sister's BFF and my grandparents celebrating my sister's birthday. Like any 9-year-old, she was always so excited at the chance to play in the soft play. Even more so because they're not even vaguely accessible, and they refused to make exceptions for me to go in too. Which I understand, but do wish was different. On this occasion, however, we did our research, called ahead, and found a lovely place that was happy to let me go in with Joy and Amy. Amy, by the way, is the sweetest girl I've ever met and is happy to make sacrifices in order for Joy to have a good time, even though we always let her know she doesn't have to, and was perfectly fine with me coming in with them. We'd been in the soft play area for about 15 minutes when Amy and Joy got thirsty, so I did the whole thing. Lifted Joy out of the ball pits, and we headed over to the cafe seating area to grab some juice. We were about halfway back to the soft play area. I was carrying Joy, and Amy was walking next to us, chatting with her, when we heard it. This is a slightly abbreviated version of the conversation that ensued.
I'm very sorry, ma'am, but your children are above the height limit for this soft play.
Why? We came here to play. I have work to do. It will keep them occupied.
I know, but they're a danger to the other children playing here, and our age limit is 10 years.
Aha! Thing 2 is 10.
Maybe so, but he still exceeds the height limit at this establishment. I'm sorry, but we're not gonna let you in.
Me and the kiddos were still headed towards the soft play when I feel a tap on my shoulder. By this point, the staff have changed over, and obviously the lady who let us in and knew the situation had forgotten to tell the people on the next shift about Joy.
I'm sorry, but you're too tall to go in.
I explained the situation and gestured to my visibly disabled sister.
Okay, clearly my coworker forgot to mention that. No problem, have a nice day.
And she walks away. Karen walked over at this point and pointed accusingly at me. You're too old to go in. I know, but my sister here needs me to go in with her because she can't walk and the wheelchair won't fit. Ah, well, she shouldn't be here then. If she can't go around on her own, she shouldn't go in at all. Well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. Thing 1 says to Joy,
Intellectually disabled can't go in. Sorry.
What did you just call her?
Server Lady rushes over frantically.
Oh dear, is there a problem?
This boy just called my sister an intellectually disabled. Well, he was very upset about being the exception to the rule. If this girl can go in, why can't he?
Is his younger sibling physically disabled?
No, he's fine though, and this girl is more likely to hurt the little kids than my boys.
How so?
Well, not to be rude, but look at her. Gestures to me up and down. Server Lady looks unimpressed.
I'm looking.
Well, she's not exactly lightweight, is she?
First off, she's not even fat. Second, your son called her sister an inexcusable name. Third, my daughter has cerebral palsy and it's purely physical. This girl understands everything you're saying about her and her sister. I do.
Karen looks a little shocked at this. Look at the girl, she's drooling everywhere. You can't possibly think that's hygienic.
It's no more unhygienic than letting a baby in.
She looks to Joy.
No offense meant. None taken.
Whatever. I hope you know that this rule-bending establishment will not be getting any more of our custom. Karen turned tail and stalked out. We never saw her again, thank God. The server lady apologized and gave us all a free slush puppy, which made the girls extremely happy and my grandparents freak out. I'm happy to say that Joy and Amy had a wonderful rest of the day, and so did I. I wish I could say Karen was arrested or that it didn't hurt Joy's feelings at the time, but she wasn't and it did. Such is life. It didn't spoil the day though, and I hope her kid wakes up one day with cerebral palsy and finds out how it is to be intellectually disabled. The Redditor here, for making sure her sister is taken care of and taking care of her herself, I can guarantee, even though I don't have any personal experience with this, but having a handicapped sibling must be a lot of work. And those that do have handicapped siblings and take care of them as much as they can, you have my appreciation and their appreciation and everyone's appreciation. Let's appreciate them because it's a lot of work that they didn't necessarily ask for, but they're still doing it because it's, I guess it's the right thing to do. Let us know in the comments below if you have any handicapped family and how much it's affected your life. I'm interested in knowing. This story's called Guy Decides He Needs Handicap Parking Spot More Than My Mom. Catches Me on a Bad Day. Hey, what's going on, party people? Been a lurker for a while now and finally have enough karma to post. A little bit of backstory. A few years ago, in the middle of good old Canadian winter in January, my mom was heading to her car to go to work. No one knows what exactly happened, but she probably slipped on some ice. But she fell hard enough to slightly crack her skull and she bled pretty bad. My stepdad saw her outside and called an ambulance in time though. She had no memory for weeks on end and her body wasn't working right for a long while after. Fingers and toes going limp or numb or just not strong or working right. Basically, she was recovering for months. I'm also very protective of her and my siblings since we all ran from a home of mistreatment. Alright, context rant over. On to the story. Here's our cast, Sturbeans. There's me, entitled dad, my mom, awesome police officer. So this takes place a few weeks after my mom got out of the hospital. She was using a cane to walk as her arms and legs were still pretty weak at times, and so she had a handicap plaque. I don't know what you call it where you're from, but that's what it's called in Canada. She needed to get her prescriptions from the store, and I had nothing to do that day, so I volunteered to take her. She lived in a small town at the time with only one major pharmacy, so we of course went there. And as the title suggests, both handicap spots were taken, so I dropped my mom off as close to the door as possible and went to find a different spot. But as I went by the other cars in the handicap spots, I noticed one of them didn't have the placard. This definitely rubbed me the wrong way, of course, since my mom, who really needs the spot, had to walk further. So I did something extremely petty. I decided to park directly behind that car and block them in and wait for them to come out, not really thinking of how it all looked. A little bit of extra context since I know we all enjoy that. I'm a huge metalhead, so I kinda dress the part even in early spring. Black jeans, high-top shoes, five-finger death punch shirts, metal militia hats, spiked earrings, big red-black flannel jackets, and I have a bad case of resting bench face. So thinking back, it looked bad seeing your car blocked into its spot with your kids in the car. Continuing with the story, the guy comes out and sees me and immediately tears into me. This was a while ago, so the dialogue isn't 100% exact.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
I'm just here waiting for my mom to get her prescription.
Well, you can't just park there and block me in. I need to leave, so move.
I mean, if you can park wherever you want, then so can I, right? Considering you took the only other handicap spot and my mother needs it. So I think I'll be staying right where I am. At this point, he's in my face and there's some cussing back and forth. He tries to take my keys and I threaten to knock him out in front of his kids. I know, Richard move, but again, I'm angry and my adrenaline is firing. Then he decides he's calling the cops. It's a super small town, so there's not a lot going on, and an officer is there in 2 minutes.
Alright, gentlemen, what's the issue? This kid is blocking my car for no reason. Arrest him or make him move.
Yeah, I'm blocking him, but only because my mom needed that spot and he's parked there. Illegally. He starts to get the other guy's side of the story and looks at our vehicles when my mom finally comes out. Aaron, what's going on?
Hello, ma'am, how are you feeling? Been a while since I've seen you. How's your head doing? I heard you were in the hospital for a while.
When Entitled Dad hears this and sees my mom, he goes white. Turns out that was one of the officers that came and checked on things when my stepdad called for an ambulance. And he knew, without a doubt, she needed that spot. And of course, when she told him about the parking issue, I was told to move and given a warning. But I'm pretty sure he handed the other guy a ticket and gave him a serious talking to. Anyways, that's my first story for you guys. My mom's good now, nothing more than some pins and needles in her fingers and toes sometimes. And I never saw erectile dysfunction again, thankfully. I don't know what entitled dad was thinking, but I'm thinking the thought process was something like this. Hey, I did something illegal and someone's getting mad at me for it. I should call the cops on them. Yeah, that went well. This story's called My Soon-to-Be Mother-in-Law is an Entitled Parent. Here's the cast. Entitled mother-in-law?
Nick.
Me, wedding planner. Yes, that's true. I don't know how an amazing guy has the most entitled mother ever. 4 years ago, I met Nick at a cafe, and 2 years later, we started dating. The year of dating, he proposed on Valentine's Day. Now his mother doesn't like me, mostly because I'm not religious and I do my own thing. Even though Nick left religion before he met me, she blames me for bringing Lucifer into his life. We're having a gothic graveyard wedding on Halloween. Mostly our wedding of our dreams. We love Halloween and old graveyards. We asked, and as long as we don't disrespect graves or anything, we are allowed to have a wedding there. Wedding planner did an amazing job with everything, including finding a new reception venue when the other one canceled. Might be going to court for that one. We send out invites to everyone, including his mother. This is the text I got. Why aren't you getting married in a church? That's my dream for him. Because we're not religious and the graveyard wedding was his idea. So, I'm gonna look horrible because my son is marrying a demon girl. Entitled mother-in-law, I'm sorry that you feel that way. It's our day, so please, put differences aside for your son and come to the wedding. Everything went downhill. Wedding planner called me and asked if I can change my flowers to real ones and have my theme change. She literally got hold of wedding planner and told her that I wanted a traditional wedding now and find a church. Thankfully, I cleared up and made a password to make sure entitled mother-in-law can't do more damage. She told everyone that she's the groom's mother and that it's her day. Can you please stop ruining your son's wedding? We worked very hard to have this day. If you can't stop, you will not be invited. Nick is very stressed out because of you and it's not fair. It's my day, not his. You're a demon girl ruining his life. He shouldn't even ask you to marry him. I might make a part 2 to this. She's literally very entitled. Wow, that is one selfish mother and a wedding at a graveyard? I'm not judging, but that's interesting.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.